All right, Sherdog.com here with Magny. So up next is Johny Hendricks. Obviously, he's a former champion, a great wrestler. But some think he's a shell of his former self because he's on a losing streak. He's lost 3 of his last 4. What are your thoughts on that? Are you expecting him to be just the vicious, old-school Johny Hendricks from before?
100%. I'm expecting the Johny Hendricks that a lot of people think beat George St. Pierre to show up. And I'd be an idiot to look at his last 2 fights and think like, oh, whatever, he's washed up, he's old news, anything like that. This guy's a great competitor. I mean, you don't win national championships at the NCAA level being a chump. You don't become a world champion by being a chump. So I'm not going to look at his recent performances and think like that's the kind of guy he is. I'll focus more so on his performance against George St. Pierre and expect that guy to come out and fight.
How do you focus on that? Because they always say that the fighter is as good as his last fight. He hasn't looked good in the past couple fights. So how do you focus on the best Johny Hendricks?
The biggest thing I did first is just kind of redirect the media. Media has a tendency to telling you what the person look like and make predictions on the fight. So the biggest thing I do is just turn that away and like, hey, I understand how you feel. I understand how you'll judge his character and things like that based on the last 2 fights. So I just kind of put that to an end early on and just go back to refocusing on how he performed against George St. Pierre. If you looked at my last fight, you think like, oh wow, Magny looks like crap. Did you see that? Did you see how he got knocked out by Lawrence Larkin? He's terrible. So like I know I was better in that performance, and I know that Johny Hendricks is better in his last 2 performances. So I'm focused on the best Johny Hendricks that got to beat George St. Pierre like he was mine.
How did you bounce back from that loss? Obviously, every loss stinks, but especially with the way you looked against Larkin. Mentally, was it easy to get back into the gym and get back on track, or did you have maybe about a depression where you're just like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore?
For sure. The last time I lost, I was able to fight a week later, so I didn't have much time, or 2 weeks later, so I didn't have much time to dwell on that loss at all. This fight, I had about 3 months in between, so I kind of had more time to think about it, but it really gave me a moment to sit there and really ask myself and be honest with myself, like, hey, dude, where did you go wrong? How did you see that? Where did you mess up in that fight? And I honestly sit there and be honest with myself, like, actually look at it, like, hey, where did you screw up? Not put it on my coaches and be like, hey, was I prepared for this fight? Not put it on anyone else, but sit there and take all the blame and all the fault on myself and see why I screwed up going into that fight.
Now, Johnny's wrestling is world class. How do you prepare for something like that?
So for this camp, we had a couple Division I wrestlers that come in and help me. Sonny Young and Cody Young were the Division I wrestlers from Minnesota. I also had David, who's a Division I wrestler from Iowa State, that was in there helping me as well. So that was one thing I had for this camp to help me prepare for this fight. But at the end of the day, I just focused on my strengths. I mean, Johny Hendricks didn't have a hard time dealing with my range, dealing with my pressure, dealing with my pace. So those are the things I focused on throughout camp as well.
Now, UFC 207 is a massive card. Obviously, it's the return of Ronda Rousey. How crucial is it for you to not only win, but to look spectacular? And is there any added pressure on yourself to do that?
For sure, I'm ready to get back on track and start making that run towards the top again. So for me to go out there, it's all about putting on a down performance and looking great. The easiest way to get rid of your loss is to go out there and have another amazing win. So I'm looking to go out there and do just that. Just go out there and perform well, have everyone talk about Magny fighting for a title again.